Steve, just walk us through what we know so far about where these leaders stand and what they're actually expecting to achieve out of this summit.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating, and there is no doubt about it, a lot of trepidation, despite the fact in those leaked messages from General Secretary Rutte to Donald Trump that we saw overnight, that actually he's telling kind of fellow NATO members to calm down about US involvement, saying the US president remains committed. And of course, the president on his Truth Social also saying, look, you know, he feels very strong commitment to Europe, very strong commitment to his friends. And having said that, real disappointment that there still seems to be this issue over the Spanish flashpoint. The president writing, there is a problem with Spain. Spain is not agreeing, which is very unfair to the rest of the people as well. So there is no doubt about it. It looks fairly smooth coming to this meeting. It looks like General Secretary Mark Rutte has done a lot of the hard work getting everyone on board. But maybe there is a slight fly in the ointment, and it's something we've been talking about with a lot of leaders here as well, foreign ministers, defence ministers, prime ministers I've been speaking to already on the first day. The youngest member of NATO, and our viewers will probably know this, is Sweden, which of course as soon as we saw the start of the war in Ukraine, basically started its accession process along with Finland to take it up to first 31, then 32 members. Well, Sweden's been a member of NATO for just over a year now, and they bring a lot to the table as well. They have a lot of industrial military capacity. They have Saab, which is one of the most important defence companies in the world. They also fly some of the most advanced fighters in the world, which helps patrol, of course, the Baltic, which is something that Ulf Kristersson, the Prime Minister of Sweden, was talking about when I went to a press briefing with him yesterday. I also managed to catch a few words with the Swedish Prime Minister as well, and he was talking about how Sweden is fully committed to extending its defence spending and getting to that 5% level. Let's listen in to Ulf Kristersson.
Well, I know very well what we are committed to ourselves from the Swedish perspective, and that will be also our message tomorrow in the meeting, that a significant increase is absolutely necessary right now, and I think 3.5 plus the 1.5 for a broader kind of security investments is a very accurate one. So I think and I hope for unity on that.
But are you concerned that the Spanish, given the fact that they've come into this meeting with a very firm red line on this one, cannot be persuaded to spend anywhere near to 3%?
Well, of course I can't. I mean, I don't rule out any kind of problem. I think you can't take for granted this unity. I say that there would be a value in itself with a very strong NATO unity on this, and this will absolutely be our message on tomorrow's meeting.
But that could potentially augur an outburst from the US president, who could potentially pull US involvement if indeed he doesn't get unity agreement, couldn't he? Or certainly pull it back a little bit.
Well, now we are speculating a lot, and
he's talked about it, sir.
Yeah, but I will stick to what we are discussing in the meeting tomorrow, and I do think there is a serious chance for us to unite on a significant increase in not least European defense capabilities, and that would be extremely good.
And why are we talking a lot about Spain? Well, because if you give an exemption to one country, then of course there are going to be others who are perhaps less committed to get into the kind of targets that Mark Rutte and Donald Trump are looking for as well. And then you see erosion in unity, and then you see a fraying potentially of the US commitment to Article 5, which is an attack on one being an attack on all. And the president has already alluded to different ways that Article 5 can be interpreted going forward as well. So it would be very difficult for the unity message to be portrayed coming out of this meeting if indeed there are exemptions and the Spanish get away with actually a lower spending commitment as well. And again, it is the big issue, and it's something I spoke to with actually a man I spoke to in Washington DC a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. So I spoke once again to the Estonian defense minister. Why is Estonia really interesting? Well, for many reasons, but it's one of those three Baltic nations, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, on the eastern coast of the Baltic, that are most at threat from Russian aggression as well. They see Russian incursions in their airspace quite a lot. They see Russian cyber warfare quite a lot. And of course, they are very concerned about that very imminent threat. Many people think if there is going to be an attack on NATO, it's going to be in that Baltic region. So I spoke to Hanno Pevka about these very issues and about the Spanish issue as well. Listen in.
Well, Spain says that, they want to find their own way to that and how to reach that. And that is exactly what also the Secretary of NATO said, that, you can try to find your way. But still, when we take the capability targets, then the capabilities are something we need in Europe. And when we take the capabilities, yes, it will be a different path for each of us, how to reach these. But, of course, I would like to see that also Spain will go to 5% in the coming years. Domestic politics probably doesn't allow them to do that, but that doesn't change the capabilities we agreed just a few weeks ago. Also, Spain said, yes, we agree with these capability targets. So that's it. So when we have the capability targets, then we need to apply to these, or we need to fulfill these capability targets.
That was Hanno Pevkur there, the Estonian Defence Minister. And Dan, of course, NATO is not operating in isolation, and it comes very much back down to your wheelhouse as well, and looking at the events in Iran, the events regarding intelligence leaks, and the events regarding the status of that ceasefire as well. So that will be bubbling under the surface, of course, as well.
Indeed, Steve, and excellent coverage so far. I have so many questions for you, but I think it's also important to go to the Russia question as well, which is certainly something that you've been following intimately for many years now. Talking about defence spending is one thing, whether it's 5% or 2% or something in between. What about the conversation on the ground there about a genuine diplomatic off-ramp here? Where does the war in Ukraine stand today among these leaders? And of course, we see a continued fight going on, and yes, that's important, but where do efforts stand to actually bring this war to a close, diplomatically, not just militarily?
I think, yeah, Dan, it's the question as well, and it's one I keep raising, and it's one I've been raising at NATO meetings, at G meetings, when I've spoken to world leaders many, many times. And you know what? I just still, to this day, do not get a clear answer. So there are two ways this is going to end. Well, three ways, really. One, a Russian victory on the battlefield. Two, a Ukrainian victory on the battlefield. Or three, some form of peace deal before either of those scenarios. Let's go through those first two scenarios. Quite frankly, neither look likely at the moment. Yes, Russia have been making some advances, but it's been very hard work, the loss of terrible lives and lots of injuries and what have you, and the use of a lot of armaments as well. So yes, Russia is perhaps moving forward, but at a snail's pace as well. But again, that is nowhere near a total victory. Ukraine at the moment just does not have the military and personnel capacity to get a victory on the battlefield. So it has to be at some stage, if this war is going to end, some form of peace deal. And quite frankly, of course, the US president talked about getting a deal done. It was easy to do on the first day of his presidency as well. Well, he's been thwarted in that ambition as well. I did ask a lot of people about this very question yesterday, Dan, because I think it's still right at the heart of those security concerns for Europe, at least, and perhaps for other parts of the world. And quite frankly, there were two answers I was getting, and neither, I would suggest, takes us the full way forward towards getting an end to this dreadful conflict. One is supplying Ukraine with more arms, more armaments to get the job done. Again, they've had a lot of armaments, and it's been very, very difficult for them to move forward, of course, especially with the level of US commitment waning somewhat as well. And two, increase sanctions. People think that if you increase the sanctions on Russia, then maybe that's going to force them to some form of deal and some of acquiescence on some of their quite harsh terms at the moment, including the defanging of the Ukrainian army, which is where it was found in 2014, of course, after the Yanukovych years, when I turned up in Ukraine in 2014 during the Crimea invasion. So again, very unlikely at the moment that diplomacy is working, and the idea of higher sanctions, well, that seems something that is actually getting the cold shoulder from the US as well. So in answer to your question, I'm afraid it looks really bleak on the peace front as well. Just as one aside, I spoke to Svetlana Tikhonovskaya yesterday, who is the Belarusian opposition leader in exile. Very interesting to hear her take. She is worried actually about further Russian aggression, not only in Ukraine, but also in other areas, including NATO areas. And she said, keeping an eye on those Russian military drills, which are due later this year as well. Of course, it was those drills that preceded the invasion of Ukraine back in 2022.